Let's go!
I've been really wanting to discuss something else on the fighting game spectrum about TOKON, and there's obviously a lot of TOKON stuff to talk about now. I want to talk about like positives and negatives, things that I'm like super excited about. Had me a little like skeptical and curious and wondering what the hell's going on. If there's something that's an emphatic positive about TOKON that everybody can say that actually really bugs me, there has been no adequate high quality capture yet of the game that really shows how good it looks. And that bugs me. The capture that was provided sort of like at Evo and everything therein was not really good looking. Bitrate either too low, colors off, something like that. Audio's like an issue. Even the videos that I see online of the trailers and stuff like that do not look as good as the game does. If there is a benefit, I love the presentation of this game. From the visual aspect to the fonts to the visuals of the characters. They do a really crazy thing in TOKON where, you know, in all Arc System Works games, they look like anime and they kind of animate like anime. They animate on twos, which is like sort of a stuttery style, but it very much looks like Japanese animation. For the first time ever, I think in Arc System Works, like this modern visual style that they've had since Xrd Modern, they're tweening the animation, which is actually like not keyframing it and like keeping the really harsh keyframes. No, now there's a smooth motion between this to this. You can see the whole motion and it looks crazy to me just because like I have never seen Arc System Works games look like this before. And I think it's for a benefit because the game's going to be a little crazy with its like team stuff. And I think it's actually really good. So emphatic positives, dude, across the board, like that shit is gorgeous. And I can't wait for people to see it when the beta comes out. Another huge positive, the characters are dope. Characters don't just get light, medium, and heavy and a few specials. Nah, my dude, the characters in this game are actually sick. They get a Injustice style like unique attack where there's like a gimmick per character. That gimmick can dramatically change the way things work. On every single character, like the gimmick did something pretty unique and interesting and set up for some odd situations that I would like be like, oh, that leads to that, Yeah, that's weird. That will do a different combo route, different this. Characters are very capable. And I would argue that they feel more capable than even things like their previous Versus game, which was Dragon Ball FighterZ. They feel like they definitely can do some stuff with this. It's that we have no idea what they could do within that limited period of time, you know what I mean? In that same way, we were trying to figure out the combos. Another positive to the game is that we did not figure it out in the first hour. It seemed like there was a lot of like limitations and things like that to the tag system because there is, but when we were playing it, it was like, oh, so this is kind of what the game is. And the expectation was there. But as we were reviewing footage and seeing what was possible, it's like, oh my God, dude, there's so much more to this game. Nobody was cracking the surface at Evo, even with the highest caliber players and stuff like that. No shit, man. Some of the way these mechanics in the game, because the game is very mechanically complex. There's a lot of things that counter other things and things you can do all over the place. That's like generally not super new player friendly, but there is so much to work in there that there's some really cool shit that we are not getting the grasp of. So a lot of our theorizing of where this gameplay is going to go is based on seeing how those mechanics interact and wondering where it can go, which is kind of what leads me to some criticisms. As I said, that's a positive that we did not figure out what's going on. Like there's some meat and bones to these combos, there's some meat and bones to these defenses and all that kind of stuff. The first negative, and it really hit me in the moments after playing it and like sitting on it for a day, it's not really a tag game. And I get it. It says 4v4 all over the place, but like in bit of criticism, it more of is like a 1v1 game with features. Somebody described it in Sajam's chat as in a spicy 1v1, and I love it. 100% the best way you could describe it is spicy 1v1. Like, yes, absolutely. And I get it. You start off with 2v2 characters, but it's mostly one character and their assist. And that, you know, you can tag. There is all these things you can do, but it really felt like the game wanted to be played, at least in first impression, as a 1v1 game. And it's like, you don't really need to tag. You don't really need to do all this additional stuff. And the incentives therein weren't super high enough where it's like, I'm not recovering health or anything, so I'm just going to play as my one character. That was sort of like disheartening, where it's like, man, so it's not like really a tag game. It's very unique in that way where you absolutely can play it with that. However, like we discovered that there's some, like I said, some crazy tag stuff that's in there that is like, oh, we could not figure this out on the first session, which is another criticism, another like negative. Tagging is weird. And like I said, it's like the game game wants to be a 1v1 because tagging is kind of hard. Like getting a character in is a little weird, and like calling assists and bringing the character in has a weird limitation to it as far as like when you're allowed to. So there was several moments when people were trying to tag their character in. It's like, dude, I cannot tag them in. Like, I don't know what's going on. And that was kind of happening to a lot of people. That's sort of a rough aspect for me. There's all these really cool tag things that are in there, but like for some reason, they're not super intuitive to use. It feels like the game wants to be 1v1 because all this tag stuff is kind of hard to get to. It's not exactly like, it's a positive and a negative for me because it feels like it's like the third layer deep, where like at the top layer, it is kind of mostly like a 1v1 game with a few assists and you can tag every once in a while. But on the bottom, it's like, it goes a few levels below and it's like, oh, so there's really some opportunities to do some very cool stuff here because tagging does make the combo gauge get shorter. There is opportunities to DHC and do all this stuff, but is there a lot of really big reward for cycling your characters out, for playing all 4 characters on a team? Not exactly. Right now, it feels like it's there if you want to engage with it, but I feel like the game is trying to have its cake and eat it too, with being a 1v1 game and a 4v4, and it's not really committing to one or the other. At this point, from what we played, I kind of wish it would dedicate to being a 1v1 and kind of a crazy Guilty Gear Xrd sort of 1v1, like BlazBlue, Guilty Gear Xrd. I think that would be badass if it was just like straight 1v1. But right now, the way the game is, it's sort of like a hybrid tag game, which is genuinely unique. But even though a lot of this, the way the game feels like a whole bunch of our other Arc System Works games, it's super unique because it's a lot of stuff sort of put together. If anything, I think the one criticism I hope leads to something is that if they're going to try to commit to this game having like all this cool tag depth and stuff like that, they really got to incentivize tagging, right? If they want people to eventually grow with the game from being like, you start off with like one character and then you kind of learn how to use all your other characters, there needs to be reasons to do that other than it's fun, and sometimes you extend a combo, because even you can extend combos and not tag and still get the bonus of like not having the combo bar fill up too much. You don't have to tag for that. The assist comes in and just drops down a little bit. It's like you're tagging for fun right now. I'm a little concerned like when things eventually get to like a high level, if it will just be not a lot of that, because tagging will be inherently risky and you get a chance for happy birthdays and all that kind of stuff. To me, I hope that there's like a thing that we discover within this tag system that leads to these extra levels of depth that actually give us a reason to cycle throughout all the characters and stuff like that. Overall, I'm very excited because the more I've looked at it, the more opportunities I see for really cool shit. Oh, another thing that I don't know if is a positive or a negative is the defensive mechanics. Some of them feel really weird right now. Like the alpha counter is weird because there's no way to get people off of you in the game. There's a couple of things you can do like defensively. That's like a parry, like a V-shift parry. And there's also a armored overhead, mostly used for offense, but there's an alpha counter in the game where there might be some really interesting stuff, but we don't know yet. There's an alpha counter, and in the first trailer, they show that you can alpha counter, do a special with the character that's not the one doing the alpha counter, and then late tag in, and you can pick up for a combo. Seemingly, there's opportunities for you to alpha counter in and get a full combo based on like a late tag, which is actually kind of crazy because alpha counters do cost a resource. You know, the tag also costs a resource, so it's kind of expensive. But yeah, dude, you're going from a defensive state suddenly transitioning to an offensive state, as long as there's counters for the alpha counter, is a really cool idea. We were just completely unable to engage with that way. It was like, we're just mashing on alpha counter if you come up and get close to me. And then the other person has an opportunity to counter the alpha counter, which just sort of returns the neutral, or they do a perfect one and it blows all your shit away. It feels kind of risky to alpha counter right now because there's a chance you can get your whole team blown out. And that feels a little lopsided because I'm just like, man, I just kind of want to get this person off of me because the block strings are huge. It feels like there's like a lopsided thing where you can alpha counter and do something big with it. I really like that. That's also present in Invincible, and it's very fun where it's like your defense turns to offense in some way. The nice part is that this is all super early, dude. And a lot of these things can easily be figured out. I know from a casual perspective, there's going to be a negative that a lot of people will talk about when the beta comes out. And the game's very mashy. There's auto combos all over the place on light, medium, and heavy, and you just sort of mash auto combo and a lot of shit happens. It's great for casual players, but for people that are like, if you're coming from a Dragon Ball FighterZ thing or you don't like auto combos in games, they're all over the place in this thing. It did not seem like they act like Dragon Ball FighterZ auto combos, and I think that the auto combos fill up the combo gauge faster. They actually make it go by quicker, so if you're auto comboing, it seems seems like your combo will be naturally shorter, which I think is a great way. I think they should, once again, this should be a game that disincentivizes auto combos, but still allows them to be good and exist. But there should be a clear path of like evolution, right? There should be a clear path of like the game wants you to do this one. And if you do like the normal combo, then yeah, if it fills up less of the combo gauge, you get longer combos. I think that's great. We just haven't been able to like dissect the game to figure that out. Wonder would a push block slow the rounds too much is why they don't have it. The one thing I really hope that they incentivize tagging, like how do you incentivize tagging? We had this random idea on stream. The game almost has no gray health. You get like a little bit of gray health when a new character comes in, when you get like populated, your team assembles, but the game almost has no gray health moments. You just lose life raw and it's done. So that's kind of weird to me that there's no moments to recover health in many situations after like big combos and stuff like that. To me, it felt like there's a clear opportunity for there to be an incentivization of tagging here. Big combos and things like that, maybe if like even normal combos, I don't know, something, leads to gray health. And the whole point of you cycling out your team is to recover some of that health or something like that, you know? I feel like there can be a bonus of meter, there can be a bonus of, you know, some of these resources, including your health in some way, that will allow tagging to be more incentivized. I think they could definitely do something with that, but it depends on what they want to do. Do they want to make tagging good or do they not? I think they kind of have to make that choice, you know? Anyway, I'm really looking forward to the beta because I absolutely want to dig deep into this tag stuff, right? If this game is really going for a 4v4 thing and there's all these like extra levels of depth around the tag system and it isn't really hovering around a 1v1 game, that's where I will find it to be the most interesting because right now it's just a lot of like assist spam in neutral and stuff like that and combo extension, and you mostly just stick with one character. And it's not a bad thing if the game is that way. I just am like, dude, I want to rotate the full team. Like, I really do. I love it, man. I think a lot of the stuff in the game is genuinely fun. I think it looks gorgeous. I am like chomping at the bit to want to play more, and that is probably one of the most glowing reviews about the game, is that it feels like there's so much more to discover.